Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited for our guest. I have virtually in front of me, Dorota. She is not only a new business owner and has a whole new business that she's so excited to talk about, but she also is a graduate of the 6 Months of Food Freedom program. So it's always super exciting to watch people thrive and the life that they choose to live when they're finally done with dieting and just step into their power. And I'm so excited to talk about her. So we're going to be talking about decluttering, the differences between cleaning and decluttering, and how you guys can create more space in your life, because you actually are going to be hearing this in 2023, brand new year, brand new you. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but it's on my New Year's resolution. Once you get rid of making your New Year's resolution all about your body, you actually start focusing on things that help you to create space. And for me, I know that my vision for 2023 is to definitely be more organized. So I'm super excited to have Dorota here. Dorota, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you. So, because you've listened to the podcast for a long time now, I would love for you to start by introducing yourself, by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Well, hi, my name is Dorota, and I help busy, overwhelmed women in taking back control of their messy homes. And I say messy with all the love, because our homes get messy, they get untidy, they get disorganized, right? They get all the things. And to me, like most of my adult life, I really struggled with keeping my house clutter-free for longer periods of time. And it got really bad when the first UK lockdown got lifted in May 2020, right? I worked 2 full-time jobs and I really had no time. So as you can imagine, my house got really messy. I mean, beyond even that I could describe. So really what I remember I remember vividly sitting there in my bedroom in my chair and thinking, oh my God, that's not even like what is happening, right? And I was desperately hoping that maybe if I wake up in the morning, the mess would just, magically disappear. I was really hoping that if I wished it away, it would happen, but it never kind of happened, right? And that was sort of the time that we started working together. And one of our first sessions, you said something to me that really kind of struck a chord with me, and it was to actively protect my energy. And at that time also massive changes started happening in my life. So I decided to add decluttering my house as well to that list. So I'm very resourceful. So I read all the books, I listened to all the podcasts, and I slowly started to tackle my house, right? I learned loads of strategies and tricks and stuff that really moved the needle for me. And I am really passionate about helping people to get to that point as well, because the clutter is very overwhelming, but we are able to kind of tackle that. And a lot of times we are stuck in life. And once we start moving and removing things from our home, actually we create space for that new energy. And I really believe that there is a balance to be struck between chaos and order. It allows us to create kind of cleaner, more harmonious spaces that we can still have a healthy balance of a healthy amount of stuff that we love, stuff that we use, and stuff that we just simply don't want to let go of.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my story.
I love it. Oh my God, this is going to be such a good episode. I'm so excited. You said so many great things that it really is so true that, an organized space, it just helps you think more clearly. you just have more, and it's also so annoying. Like I'm talking about this, guys. I am a recovering messy person. I think I've spoken about it before on my podcast and just like, in my content and stuff. And I really am working on this, which is why, sorry, but not sorry. I tend to bring on guests that I want to learn because I want to learn from myself personally. But like even just the little things of just like when there's clothes on the floor or a shoe on the floor and you go to step and you step on it and you're like, oh, why is that there? Like, it's so frustrating. Or like when you go to get a dish, like a fork out of the drawer and you didn't do the dishes, so there's no forks left and you just want to eat your food. It's like so frustrating. Like, so like these are things that, it's just so helpful to be, clean and organized and all that stuff. And I'm really excited to get into today. I have a lot of questions. Before I ask my questions, I think it would be helpful for you to just clarify the difference between decluttering and cleaning, because I don't think we're talking about cleaning here, right? We're talking about decluttering.
Definitely, right. So I think it's very important for us to understand that to have a sort of clean and clutter-free home, we have to look at our home from a perspective of kind of layers, right? There is a stuff that we have to do every day in our homes, and that sort of is the layer number one. It's things that like making your bed, washing your dishes, putting clean dishes away, and things like that, right? A little tidying and stuff like that. Layer number two is actually decluttering, and this is what we are talking about here. And then there is a layer number three, which is actual cleaning, right? Because you cannot clean your kitchen table when there is loads of stuff on that table, right? But you can declutter your house without having to clean the house. Like you don't have to, you don't have to, you don't have to do all those three things. That's where people get overwhelmed because they think that they have to do all of the things, right? Mm-hmm. But if you only focus at the beginning when you are so overwhelmed, if you only focus on getting rid of stuff, forget the cleaning. You will have time to clean. You'll have time to organize your house, but you just need to get rid of stuff, purge stuff first.
Okay. So what strategies do you have about like how often should someone declutter, or like what are your tips to the decluttering process? Is it like once a week, once a month? Are there rooms that you choose to start with? Like where do we begin?
I absolutely love that question, right? There's so many layers to that question. I think, first of all, it's very important to understand what decluttering actually is, right? On a technical level, decluttering is removing stuff from our home, stuff that we don't need, right? So if you removed one thing from your house, you decluttered. If you removed hundreds of things from your house, you also decluttered, right? But so decluttering is this process of going through every single thing in your house and deciding what you actually want to do with it, right? But I really think that, to me, actually, decluttering is about mindfully reconnecting with what we have in our homes and deciding what we want to keep it, whether we value that thing, whether it's something that makes us happy or doesn't, or brings us the feelings of guilt or resentment, right? So it's this kind of process of really deciding what has meaning to me and if I want to keep it in my house, right? And the ways to start decluttering, there's so many advice there. There's so much advice there on the internet. There's so many decluttering coaches, decluttering gurus, and every person says different thing. But I think it's very important to actually break the area down. And because if we look at the space that we want to declutter, we think that there's just so much to do, but actually there's only 5 things to do in every area, right? And breaking decluttering into those categories help our brain to actually perceive it as less overwhelming thing to do. So the first thing that we do.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm going to say, you better share these 5 things. I need to know.
There we go. Right. So the first thing that we do is step number one, we just remove the trash because that's easy, right? We see a empty bottle, you take the large black trash bag, say that 5 times, right? It's very important to get a black trash bag because you don't want to see the stuff again. You only want to make the decision once, right? And also,
that's a good tip.
Right. But also it goes further than that because if you live with other people, you don't want them to see what you're throwing away.
Yeah, especially if kids, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah, like things
Mom,
that they
why
hold
are you
on
throwing
to.
away? Exactly. Why are you throwing away my broken toy or whatever? Right.
Yeah.
So trash is easy. It's the simplest decisions, right? Of empty bottles, broken stuff, trash that never kind of got to the trash can in the first place, right? That's the first thing. Once you get there, and you only look around the space, and you only kind of look at the surface, right? If you have a 5-foot pile in front of you, don't go diving into it. Just look on the surface.
Okay.
Then the step number 2 is misplaced items, right? So you look at the space and you ask yourself, what is out of place here? What has a home somewhere else, right? It's the same way as we have a home. We know where we live, right? Well, hopefully. It's the same with our stuff with the stuff in our homes. They have to have a designated space where they live, because otherwise, if things float around our house, that becomes clutter. So if you look at the space, you think to yourself, okay, what's out of place? Take that item straight to where it's supposed to go, right? That's the step number 2. Once you do all of that, then the step number 3 is a dark clutter, right? Dark clutter is something that shouldn't really exist, but it totally does exist. It's the stuff that you thought you already decluttered, right? You're like, duh, why do I have it? Right? I thought I already decluttered. Or stuff that you've always hated and you're like, I don't even know why I have this. Right? That's the step number 3. And then there is a step number 4, which is kind of the core of decluttering, right? Because clutter is the accumulation of unmade decisions, right? So now we go through every single item and we have to decide what to do with it. And there is a couple of kind of questions that you can ask yourself to help you decide what to do with every object. So the first question that I like to ask is, where would I look for this item first, right? So, and then if you know where this item should go, then you take this item to its designated space. If you don't know where this item lives in your home, where would you look for this item in your home? Then it means that you'd probably never knew that you probably were very. You're probably thinking, okay, I didn't even know that I had this item, right? So you just declutter that thing, donate it, throw it away. It doesn't really matter at this point. And that's one thing that I want to mention at the beginning, is that when you are so overwhelmed by the messy space, if you just want to throw everything out, that's okay.
Yeah,
right?
I think we need that permission.
Yes, definitely.
Permission to just, because I want to throw things out, but then I want to donate things, but then sometimes it is easier to just throw it out. And I kind of feel guilty a little bit, but then I remember that I do drop. I dropped so much off to Goodwill. They're like, you can't give any more bags. I'm like, okay. Like, the max is 5 a day. I'm like, okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, definitely. Like, if you want to donate the stuff, if you want to sell your stuff, yeah, go for it. But at the beginning, where you're just super overwhelmed by the space, why adding more things to your already very long to-do list, right? So you look at the item and you ask yourself, if I needed this item, where would I look for it first, right? That's the first question. And you just take this item straight to that place. The second question is, if I needed this item, right, would I even remember that I had it? right? Because the chances are that you don't remember that you already have an item, then you'll just go and buy a duplicate. So now you have to, right? And the answer to that question should always be a no. Because if you don't know where the item lives in your home, if you're like, oh, I didn't know I had glow sticks, right? Right, those the ones that you break.
Yeah.
Then you just declutter that. You don't need that item, right? And the third question which is kind of like a supportive question to the first two, which is my favorite question, is if I spilled a red wine all over this thing, how hard would I work to clean it? How hard would I work to revive it? Right? And if the answer isn't immediate, very hard, then you just declutter this thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And the question number 4 is more about kind of, do I want to spend time looking after this thing? Do I want to spend time inventorying this thing? Do I want to spend time maintaining this thing? Right? Because if you have, there was those glass tray things that were kind of popular last year. I saw them all over the Pinterest, and I also got one. The kind of like a tray thing where I think I kept some candles on it or whatever. It wasn't very big. And yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely. I liked using it, but I hated cleaning it. Right? Every time I had to go and clean it, I was like, I hate this thing. Right. It was nice on the pictures when I took pictures of my bedroom or whatever, but no, it was awful. So I just decluttered it because I decided I don't want to be spending my time having to maintain this thing. Right. So that's 4 steps. And actually asking those questions, by asking those questions, we let our stuff rise to the top, right? We let our stuff that we love rise to the top. And by keeping only what has really true meaning to us, we allow more room and then more energy to flow in our houses. And the step number 5, which is a step that we don't always have to use. At the beginning, you will use that a lot. And step number 5 is to make it fit. So you purge down the area, right? And now you only have stuff that you keep in that certain space, right? Let's say it's a bookshelf. And here you ask a question: is this thing a container worthy, right? It's a question created by Dana K. White. She's one of the decluttering gurus. She created this container concept, which is basically every single space in our house has limits, right? It's like a box, right? It has limits. And the shelf is the container, right? The cabinets are containers, the room are containers, and guess what? The house is also a container, right? We cannot keep more stuff than a container allows us to keep. So if you look at your books and you only have, let's say, 1 bookshelf in your house, right? You have to decide what you want to keep. So first, you add onto the shelf your most favorite books, right? And if you fill the space with all of your favorite books and you still have 755 books left, and there is no space in your house to put them anywhere else, then guess what? You have to declutter 755 books, right?
Yeah.
And the cool part about this container concept is that you don't actually make a decision because the space decides for you.
Right.
Right? Because, yeah, you could keep all of the books, but if you keep all of the books, what are the other things in your house that you have to let go of because you don't have space, right? And it is amazing to kind of dream about buying a bigger house, right? But a bigger house is actually bigger house is not the answer to our clutter problems because guess what? We bring us to our new houses as well. So we love to fill the space with stuff. That's one of the reasons why we accumulate so much clutter, because we think we have space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Definitely. And you've also asked what's the best place to start. It really doesn't matter. Okay. As long as you start, it doesn't matter. But I really believe that if you start from the most visible place in your home, you set yourself on the path to success much quicker than any other area in your house. Because the goal here is to declutter your house without that overwhelm. Right. To reduce the stress. To find the most visible space in your house, it's actually quite simple, and I love that. And I love that exercise. What you have to do, right? You go outside your house, outside, shut the front door, kind of take a deep breath, maybe close your eyes, move a little bit. You're doing it to kind of reset your brain for a minute, to reset your cognitive expectations of actually what you'll see. Then re-enter your house and describe out loud what you see. The first thing that you see and the first thing that you notice. And this is the first area that I think is the best area to start decluttering, right? It's because you walk past your front door probably twice a day, or even more, right? And our brains are amazing, and your subconscious brain stops sending signals to your conscious brain about this area, right? We very often feel agitated and anxious before we even enter the house. That's why. It's because this area is cluttered. By removing the clutter, decluttering that area, sorting out this area first, you're setting yourself on a path to success much quicker, because your brain won't have to switch on fight or flight every time you enter your house, right?
Yeah.
And even though I know it might sound a little bit counterintuitive, especially if there is an area in your house that requires way more attention, but I really believe that starting with this process, starting with the most visible area first, helps with motivation as well.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Like, I think you're right, because I think when you walk into a clean space or a clear space, you feel good. And when you feel good, you want to continue to feel good. Right. And so then you're going to just continue from one room to the next. But okay. So I completely understand what you're saying. Like, sometimes like more space isn't always helpful. Like, moving into a bigger apartment or a bigger house, really probably isn't going to solve your problems, because eventually things build up, as time goes. And I definitely agree with you. With that said, for those who do have like smaller houses, smaller spaces, and they are looking for like safe space savers, let's say, like, once they do the decluttering, like, are there certain things that you think are helpful in the decluttering process that everyone can add, whether that be like shelves or boxes, or like, I don't know, like treasure chest or cabinet? I don't know. Like, are there anything like that you feel like is like a must have that might help with saving space in a home?
It's a very good question, and it really is. It really depends on every single person, right? Our clutter threshold is a point at which stuff becomes clutter, right? And it is unique to every single one of us. So if you purge down the stuff to the level where it's not bugging you anymore, that you can easily manage, then great, right? Start from there. Look at your house from the perspective of, okay, do I need all of the things that I have? Do I need all of the books? Do I have time to read all of the books? I read somewhere a statistic that actually a parent has an average of 17 extra spare minutes in a day, right? 17 extra minutes. So for single people, or for people who don't live with children anymore, I don't think that kind of figure is much higher, because we like to fill our time with things, with things to do, right? So really, we have to answer the question of, do we have time to actually read all the books? Do we have time to cook all the new recipes, to try them out? Do we have time to wear all the clothes, right? And realistically, if we answer that truthfully, then we are able to actually declutter our houses even further. And maybe we don't need a new organizing solutions, because decluttering isn't organizing, right? Mm-hmm. Definitely, that's one of the misconceptions, right? Decluttering also isn't moving stuff around, right? It's not moving things from the living room to the kitchen, from the kitchen to the garage, and so on, right? Or even decluttering isn't, if you, let's say, live with your parents, like I do at the moment, and I'm like, oh, I decluttered 4 books. What did you do with it? Oh, I gave it to my mom. It's not decluttering because the books are still in the house. Right. There is, however, a few organizing methods that you could do to kind of help you be more kind of creative with your space. Right. I think for example, using velvet hangers in the closet, that is a massive space saver. Right?
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? I'm like, I keep trying to step with the right words too. Space saver.
Space saver. There you go. This one, right? Yeah. Definitely the other thing that you could do is definitely creating drop zones in your house, right? Drop zone, that's another difficult one. Drop zone is basically a space where you put your keys, right? So, for example, right? So when you enter your house, observe, take a moment or two to observe where you actually put the things in your house, right? When you enter your house and you drop your keys on the table, put a basket there.
Right.
If when you, I don't know, enter your house and you and your housemates or people that live with you drop the coats onto the floor, just put hangers there. It will help you keep the area kind of less cluttered, right? The other great way is to use lazy Susans. Those are the 10 tables, right?
Yes.
Right. Rather than kind of keeping all the way at the back of the cabinet, you just turn it around and just take the stuff out. It helps. So basically, all the organizational kind of things in our house, they have to kind of fulfill 3 basic needs. It's a visual declutter, right? And ease of access and the ease of maintenance, right? So if you have that, going back to Lazy Susan 10 table, however you call it, if it's difficult to access that, it's never going to work, right? Because you're already getting annoyed and you can't get to that, you can't take stuff out. So it's never going back there, right? The other thing is establishing a difference between active zones in our house and passive zones in our house, right? If you only use your light bulbs, if you only change light bulbs once a month, don't keep it in the zone that is highly used in your house, right? Because it was just, you have to have an ease of access to that place, right? Also, the other thing is, that goes with the drop zones as well, right? We have to, all the organizing stuff, all the organizing solutions in our house, they have to adhere to our habits, right? Because it is so difficult to change habits, humans' habits, right? So if, for example, if I came up with a new organizing method in my house and, my pretend husband and my pretend children don't kind of follow that, I'm the one left kind of following it, organizing it. And, I haven't got pretend married to have to do all of the things by myself, right? So the organizing is only going to work if it adheres to our habits, not the other way around.
Right.
The other thing that you could do is you could sort of maximize the weirdo space in our homes, right? There's always kind of a weirdo space somewhere in our homes, and create a storage, right? If you have your washer and your dryer and there's a kind of gap between the washer and the dryer and the wall, maximize that. Put hooks in there and hang something in there, right? It helps us with kind of achieving more zen in our homes, and we don't have to really work as hard if we work with our homes the way we are in our homes. It is definitely much easier to look after it, for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so last question before we kind of go into, I would love for you to share a little bit about your experience inside the 6 Months of Food Freedom program, but what advice would you give to someone that's struggling to get rid of something that they have like an emotional attachment to, right? Like maybe they're hoarding like their things that their child made, or, it's not just like one thing, right? Or obviously we know like the clutter isn't from one of those things, but maybe it is, like we mentioned before. Like for me, I feel a little bad, but I definitely, like, Amira loves collecting boxes from Amazon and drawing on them and cutting them out and playing. And like, I feel bad, but we get new boxes all the time. So, so then I'm like, well, you could just make more. I don't have to save all these cut up boxes with, marker and pen and paint on it. Like, you're going to do it again tomorrow with the new box. So
no, definitely.
But there's some people that maybe feel bad about that. So like, what do you, maybe an example like that, or maybe, I don't know if you have any other examples working with clients of like, the emotional attachment that's often with some of these items.
Well, first of all, don't start there, right? Don't start with the hardest part. But ultimately, it comes down to a container concept. That's why it's so amazing, that concept. Because if you fill the space with all the sentimental stuff in your home that you don't use, for example, then do you have space for the stuff that you actually use, right? What of the stuff that you actually use are you going to get rid of, right? Because sadly, right, we cannot stretch our homes. It would be amazing if we could, but we can't, okay? Right. And it is very important to remember that, especially, things that have been passed down to us. Your grandma hasn't given that crystal vase to you for you to shove it in the box and never look at it, right? Can you use the sentimental items? And if we look at the sentimental items from kind of that perspective, from a little bit different lens, your great grandma hasn't given you a set of plates that only, kind of gives you an anxiety because you have to store it, right? If she knew that set of plates that she's given you would create, anxiety, stress, and all the things, she would probably never given it to you, right? Mm-hmm. I know it's hard to let go of things, but with decluttering, you gain confidence, you gain experience, and it's easier to let go of things. I mean, it took me probably around 5 to 6 years to go through the box of stuff from my school years, right? And eventually when I went through it, I was like, oh, I don't remember what's this. I don't remember what's that. Why do I have this? Why did I keep that? So it's not to say that decluttering sentimental stuff is easy. It's not. But it gets a little bit easier when we get that experience, right? And also just remember the container concept, right? Or like you said with Amira, give her a space, designate a space for her, right? You can have all the boxes that you want as long as they fit in that space.
Right.
If you want a new box, if a new box that you like better comes in, what box of those that you already have are you going to declutter? Mm-hmm. Are you going to donate or recycle or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And that also teaches them to kind of respect the space a little bit more, because the problem with decluttering starts where we think we have space, right? There is no limits. We think we buy all the clothes, but we never actually think, do I have space for that?
Right.
And I like to think of the space in our homes like the space between notes and the piece of music, right? Without the space, we just get the noise, but with the space, we get the music. And I think that's quite important to remember in our homes. Like we want to be able to breathe.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, this is so great. So switching gears a little bit,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's completely different because I know that I feel like you recently took a really big like leap of faith and you're doing like really big things. And it's very different from, I think, when we first met, where you were working 2 jobs and you were really stressed out and you were kind of, struggling with your relationship with food and body image and all the things. And, I helped you kind of work through all that, but I would love for you to kind of share a little bit about your experience. And, is there a tie, do you think, between healing a relationship with food in your body and now being able to, take this leap of faith and just like enter this new path of a career and life for yourself?
Yeah, no, of course, sure. I mean, the first thing that I have to say is that being on this podcast for me, is a dream come true. Really. I mean, when I first heard about you and I obsessively listened to all the podcasts and I was like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing to be on the podcast? And, kind of 2 years later, I'm here. So that's amazing. But coming back to your question, yes, definitely 100%. You taught me to, like I mentioned at the beginning, to actively protect my energy. And that changed my life massively because I started to drink more water. I started to sleep better. I introduced morning and evening routine. And slowly but surely, I started seeing actually results, right? Little things. It was nothing sort of major that we kind of, you told me to, I don't know, I can't even think of something that could be possibly, major, but it was just a little things that we've done, right? It's the same with decluttering, right? You don't start by decluttering your whole house in one day. You do little steps. You do it by little, and you gain confidence. And it was the same with me. I gained confidence. A lot of things started changing, shifting in my life. But what also kind of I've learned over, the 6 months that we worked together is to set boundaries, right? Not only boundaries with people, right? I had no boundaries. Such a people pleaser. Recovering people pleaser, I should probably say. But I really didn't have boundaries with myself. Okay. I didn't know when I was full. I didn't know when to stop eating when I felt full. I didn't know how to listen to my body. Or maybe I did hear something that my body was trying to tell me, but again, there was no boundaries. So I ignored it. And all those little things led to changes. And the more changes, the more I was like, right, I want more. Like I'm hungry for more. And yeah, definitely. I mean, at that time, like you said, I had 2 jobs. It took me probably around a year to completely resign from the second full-time job. And I actually closed down my cleaning business. Oh yeah, that's the other thing that made my clutter-full life during the pandemic even worse, because I had a cleaning business, right? So I should really be able to clean my house. I mean, I can clean my house, but I should really be able to have my house organized and cleaned all of the times. So much more pressure because of that. But anyway, I digress. Right. So, definitely the working together was the best decision I made. It was very difficult, very hard to actually make that decision. But no, definitely, if I could say to anyone, if they kind of on the fence, do it. Don't think twice, because you have no idea what's coming, right? Your life is going to get so much better when you start looking at yourself first, listening to your needs, listening to your body, fulfilling that first. And I mean, the life changes amazingly. And then, now I'm here following my dream. I moved back from UK. I lived in UK. I moved back to Poland to live with my parents, so I can fully just immerse myself into this business and being able to, help people go through those transformations. They are quite similar, to be fair. It's just the best thing.
It's so great. It's so great. I'm so proud of you and so excited for you. I always loved your energy and your spirit, and it's so great to see you doing what you want to be doing in life. It's so
Thank you. And I will never really forget you, because you did say to me that it's all going to happen, right? You did say probably on like during first or second session, you said, I see great things happening to you and I'm excited for you. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I hate to say I told you so, but
please do.
It's so great. Because you really, as long as when you have the right guidance and the right mindset, the world is literally your oyster. You could literally do anything you want, right? And it's just so cool to watch and to see you in all the ways. So super, super excited for you. Any last minute things you want to add or comment or talk about that we maybe didn't get to that before we kind of wrap up and let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. Just kind of one thing that I want to add is that clutter builds up in our homes in our lives for many different reasons, right? It may be the fear, the unwillingness to let go, some inner refusal that time for some of the things in our life has passed, or simply just the comfort of the familiar, right? So in attempt to kind of stay and maintain that safety, quote unquote safety, we refuse to let things go, right? But the only guarantee in life is change, right? So if we are able to understand that there is something at our core that is different to all the roles and identities that we have taken on over our life, then maybe we'll be able to create a little more space to let things go, right? And there is a practice that I like to do with my clients, right? And it is called I Am Not My meditation, right? So basically what you do, you sit in a quiet place and kind of say to yourself, I am not my books. I am not my phone. I am not my sofa. I am not my designer jumper. I am not my old computer, right? And to kind of do the inventory of all the possessions, all the objects that are in your house, right? Especially those that you really struggle to let go, right? And simply by reminding yourself that you are none of those things can create a little gap between all those things and essentially you, right? So I think it's kind of quite a nice thing to try to add to your life. And kind of one more thing is that just remember, nothing on the floor that doesn't have feet, right?
Nothing on the... Wait, explain that. I don't know what that means. Wait.
No,
my head.
Nothing on the floor that doesn't have feet. What it means that our the shoes don't have feet, right? So take them. You don't store them on the floor, right? The feet is your bed has feet, your chair has feet, right? Your table has feet. So nothing on the floor. Our jumpers, they don't have feet, so they don't go on the floor. So it's just kind of this little, funny thing that I like to say to people. Nothing on the floor that doesn't have feet.
Interesting. Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so I had a question that I get popped up, but it's quick. Do you help people, because you're in Poland now, but I feel like decluttering like, do you physically go to people's homes and help them declutter, or is it more like you helping them to understand where to start, kind of why they built this up, like next steps to declutter? Like, is it more of like, is it a virtual business or is it only in person?
No, it's 100% virtual.
Oh, nice.
Yes, the way I help people, I like to kind of do the holistic approach. We don't declutter together. What we do is we talk through why we accumulate stuff, why we kind of the challenges that we face, and we set routines. I kind of stole that a little bit from you. So we set up things to do. We set up actions for the upcoming week or 2 weeks, depending how often we meet. And they work through, because essentially decluttering is very personal. And as much as I want to help, I cannot be the one to make decisions, right? They have to be the ones to do all the decisions, but that also helps them. Is the empowerment, right? They feel more empowered by achieving more results, better results.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Awesome. Okay. So where can people find you, contact you, ask you questions? I know you also have, I feel like, was it a free download just for the holidays, or do you have something like all year round? I feel like you recently had like on your email list, right? There was like some great content.
Yes. So you can get on my email list. It's the link is in my bio on Instagram. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, mainly on Instagram though. My name on Instagram is DorotaKudo.coach. It's DorotaKudo.coach. And yeah, I'm just hanging out there. I post a ton of information. I try to be funny to make things kind of lighter. I'm not sure how that's going. I mean, I have fun creating those things. But yeah, definitely give me a follow and you can get on my email list. I send emails once a week, once every 2 weeks. I don't try to send too much. And yeah, definitely. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. For those of you listening, definitely go give her a follow. Lots of great content to help you to declutter in 2023. Also, if you're interested in applying for the 6 months of Food Freedom Program, we are now accepting new clients. So go to www.tipswithtony.com/coaching to apply. And you heard it from Dorota herself. It really is life-changing. Like I really do love our what we do with the transformations we provide. So I appreciate you kind of sharing that. Because I think I say it, people think I'm biased, which I am, but it's always cool to have you say it out loud. But anyways, thank you so much for being here, Dorota. For those listening, thank you so much for listening. As always, this is Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.